And we'll touch more on it in the location section of this little mumble podcast. But that being said, patrols, is there is there some place specific in which they're supposed to be patrolling? Is it going to be specifically Divinity's Reach, or perhaps we are going to be charged with another town or something?
We're definitely going to start with the Reach, but no, we definitely want to go outside of just the Reach. Most of our patrols, regular patrols, will be there, but we also want to look into the possibilities of, to put it in words, on-demand patrols. So let's say our scouts are outside and they notice there's a lot of activity outside the foothills and near the Shiver Peaks. We can send a patrol there every now and then, especially when we get sightings or complaints or something like that around it, to see, what's happening. Maybe have a little bit of a base of a soldier militia base to help and protect. And if it gets too hard, then we get the soldiers sent.
And obviously, we're going to.
Cut.
So that could be a little bit of an issue politically speaking, to all of a sudden walk into Char or Norn
Okay.
territory.
Sorry to cut you off, but I think you missed, or you dropped the control button because you just popped back in the middle of it. So what's going to be an issue?
Wow, that's weird. Yeah. To use an example about here in Canada, we need to send patrols up into our northern territories to actually technically hold those northern territories. But if you were to send a patrol somewhere where you don't have that influence or isn't considered your territory, it could be seen as an aggressive, action. So it would be smart